So what is taking up most of your time, or your firm's time right now? Which markets, which sectors?
Well, in African terms, I think stepping back, the Hogan Lovells practice is a global practice. We have a global infrastructure practice. As a firm, we are in 50 plus countries. There's about 3,500 of us. And we have a strong presence, particularly in South Africa, where we have over 100 lawyers. So we operate in Africa from South Africa, but also principally out of London, Paris for the Francophone areas, Dubai for the Eastern Africa particularly, and then Beijing and the US. And each of those, there's 54 countries, give or take, and each of those has a very different requirements. Where we're seeing work at the moment, particularly with the downturn following the Chinese downturn particularly, and with the political issues in the world, there's an element of uncertainty, but we're seeing a lot of work in West Africa on the solar side, for example, and even on the hydro side in Mali. We're seeing quite a lot of work in North and Western Africa and East Africa on the rail side, on the transport side. Mm-hmm. East Africa, we're looking at more solar, I would say, at the moment. And in South Africa, the markets are really uncertain at the moment with the political problems they have at the moment. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of projects going on, but they're talking a lot about nuclear at the moment. Probably for the long term, I would say. So we have a varied offering, and different parts of the world are doing different things. I would say one area which is interesting, where I'm going to soon, is Morocco, where a lot of money is coming out of Morocco, probably into projects, since they've just rejoined the African Union, and I'm going out there soon to see how things are there.
The oft-repeated statistic that you've quoted, the 90 billion plus investments in infrastructure each year over the next 10 years, seems a little, I've put down unattainable, but I don't think that's quite the right word, but seems a little fanciful in the current economic climate and the commodities market downturn. Do you have an opinion on this?
I think I would use the word optimistic. I think it is optimistic. I think that all the DFIs, all the governments are focused on delivering, but unless they do the things we've talked about already, it's not going to happen. However, you are seeing the mining market improving significantly at the moment, particularly at the junior mining end. Mm-hmm. You're seeing, oil prices are not going down as much as they were, but the big focus in Africa is on diversification at the moment. And with diversification, and particularly in agribusiness and other areas, there is a chance that more money will be available. But I think at the end of the day, unless the governments raise more tax, and that means taxing more than oil, this is going to be difficult. That said, there is money. Although I said earlier that the funds aren't available, there is money in the world market which is looking for opportunities and is looking for returns which in Africa can be higher than you can get in the developed market. And so you're looking at private equity funds, looking at a lot of big deals as well as small deals. Some of the bigger private equity funds are looking for deals. Quite difficult for them to find them at the moment, but they're looking. You're looking at pension funds as well, big funds looking to invest, particularly out of South Africa. You're seeing some big funds in South Africa looking for better returns outside South Africa and Africa. So I think that although it's optimistic, there are signs I see in the market that there is money there, and that if government can create the right framework, then deals can be done, because there is a lot of need for power, basically, and infrastructure.
The current infrastructure picture is a heritage of colonialization. But now African nations aspire to trade within themselves rather than externally. Given the cost of infrastructure projects, building toll roads, bridges, ports, airports, roads, as well as power stations, and the time to bring these to fruition, Is there truly a business case to help improve Africa's internal trade and propel growth?
I think that goes back to what I was just saying around intra-African trade. Without developing it a lot, Africa is going to struggle on a scalability issue. I mean, the scalability of these are big countries geographically, but they are small countries economically, a lot of them. And unless they work together, the scalability factor, which allows people to make things locally and then build things locally, isn't going to happen. It's still cheaper to bring in ingredients for products from Japan or China into Africa and use them than it is to bring them to grow, to do it locally, because there's no scale. And so until that's dealt with, again, not an infrastructure point, but until that's done, it's difficult to see how things can expand dramatically in the way they need to. But the same applies to rail, road, electricity. Grouping together internally within Africa is absolutely critical. And as I say, if Africa doesn't stand up for itself and work together, when it has the opportunity to do so, then it should be ashamed of itself, because that's actually the opportunity it has now.